Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the novel Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. It was published in 1932. It's a classic in science fiction. I went back and reread it last night over the last 4 days. It's about 259 pages long. I had initially set out to do 50 pages each day over 5 days, and then the first day I did 60 pages. And felt that I could probably do it in 4 days rather, because I knocked it out pretty quickly. And then the next day I did 65, and then a couple of days ago I knocked out on Sunday. I knocked out about 85 pages while I was going to the mall, watching a movie, coming back from the mall, and in Newburgh. And then I also had some time before the news started, so I enjoyed that. So I knocked it out, a lot of it on Sunday, and then last night on a Monday night I finished it at about the last 50 so pages or so. Again, it was published in 1932 in the pulp era, so we'll be taking a look at what my thoughts are of this classic. And this is a dystopian work. As a reminder, all dystopians and utopians are in the science fiction genre, even if they don't have any scientific progress to them. If there's no science fiction elements to them, they're still in the genre by the fact. So if you had a modern day dystopia work that didn't have any new science fiction technology, but this one does have some. So it's clearly in the science fiction genre for you folks. So let's take a look at what my thoughts are of this. Reading it the second time for our folks. Now, I had forgotten how fast of a read this is, even though my copy's oversized. I blew through it. You could probably easily knock this out in 3 days if I had spent about 2 hours a day. But I probably spent about an hour, about an hour and 15 minutes roughly each day. Well, last night it was just an hour and a little bit less than that for me to knock out the last 50 some pages and blow it out. It was pretty quick. And that was very fast. It's a very fast read. It won't take that much of your time. I'll link you to it in the comments below in case you're interested in checking it out on Amazon. So there you are. Let's go start with my review of this classic work. So, as a reminder, I keep my review spoiler free. This 1932 work was basically what's going to wind up happening is that you're going to start with a tour in this future society of their plants where they make their children, because people don't have children naturally anymore in this dystopian Brave New World. Instead, they have their children artificially through test tubes. So we're going to be touring for a couple of chapters, the first couple of bits and so forth, and then so we're going to be told about the world, about how things are. There's a group of children that are touring, so that are being told all the truths of the world and so forth, and why they do the things that they do at this plant in order to indoctrinate children, in order to bring them into service and so forth. They're all upfront about it, and it takes about 40 or 50 pages of the 200, and then after that we'll leave after the third chapter concludes. And then we'll start the actual process of the book proper. About 50 pages in. Some of the characters that we were introduced to that we're teaching the children are some of our main characters, but our two key main characters aren't introduced until much later. One of them, the female, is introduced about 55 or 60 pages in, and then the other one is introduced until about 100 pages in or so. So they're later characters. There's a lot of conversation between them, and and this is true of most dystopian and utopian book works. If you'll take a look at them, you'll see that there's a lot of conversation about what they do, how they do it better or worse than what we would do, and so forth. One of the things I like about the Brave New World Society is it's all about happiness and comfort, and it gives that to its citizens. It doesn't give them fear. It doesn't rule through fear. It doesn't rule through hatred. It doesn't rule through those sorts of things. It rules through keeping yourself happy and comfortable. And I think that's actually a very realistic and this much darker take on the dystopia than say 1984, where everything's very dark and everybody rules through fear, removing language so they can't rebel and so forth. Right, so I like that more in this work. It feels much more realistic. Like this would be a better way to control people, because lots of people are willing to sell out liberty and democracy and so forth in the interests of better security for themselves and their children, and more money coming in. Right. And we see that in modern day places. So I think that this is a more realistic and the darker take on the dystopia society. So I think that's pretty cool. Also, this is very interesting because it It's not as well written as 1984, but again, I like the world is much more realistic and much darker. It's this dystopia that you probably want to live in because at least you're happy there, right? But again, lots of people will sacrifice what he calls the director will call truth and righteousness in the name of, you know, being happy and being content, and those are the key comforts of the world. And so we'll be following along with a lot of characters. We also have a character from outside the world that is introduced as one of our key characters, who will be our main character, because we're also, you know, new to this world too. So he'll be our key character, a point of view character for us, and so forth. Anyway, so there you are. I'm going to be giving this an 8.5 out of 10 because it is a classic, but it's not as well written as 1984. Or Animal Farm, which I went back and reread. This is very interesting because it wasn't actually appreciated in its time, even though it definitely feels like it's of its time. Right, 1932, written in the pulp era, at the apex of the peak rather of Aldous's career. He's been very written a lot of things. A lot of things has been warmly received in Britain, and then this is being written during the time of the Great Depression, and after World War I has turned things into a much darker area, and so forth. And so the idea of people in this time, right, sacrificing liberty and control and truth in the pursuit of happiness is definitely something that was a key conversation of its time, but this was not appreciated during its time. There were most of the critics during this time did not approve of it, but it actually sold well. It was well with the masses, and so he was not appreciated in the time, even though he was a big name during his era. So that's pretty cool. Anyway. So there you are. So again, I'm going to be giving this an 8.5 out of 10 for you folks. As a reminder, the channel's name is The Worst Thing About New Books, a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about new books was that they kept us from reading the old ones. And so a book written in 1932, almost 100 years ago, is definitely an older work that we've either forgotten or we've just never bothered to read, but we've probably heard about. But I like it. It's definitely a fun thing worth a read. Now, just as a heads up, this novel does include some terms of racial delineation that are not commonplace today. For example, he calls Native Americans Indians, he calls black people Negroes, and so forth. So just as a reminder, but this is 1932, that was common for the time. But just as a reminder, in case that's something that you want to go into with your eyes wide open. But I liked it. But to be fair, it also has a lot of conversation, which is common in the genre if you've read a lot of utopias and dystopias. But yeah, so like Jack London's The Iron Heel that I've already done a review for you, for Animal Farm, that I also did a review for from George Orwell that I went back and reread. So there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read this? If so, what did you think about it? Would you like to talk about spoilers or the ending? Or my 8.5 if you agree or disagree. Let's talk about that too. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There should be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video, because we all have so many things happening in our lives and pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.